What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. Bray Wyatt had made his return to WWE at Extreme Rules of 2022. He would cut an emotional promo on the following episode of SmackDown, telling the world how great it felt to be back in the WWE. This would begin a storyline involving a figure known as Uncle Howdy, which would lead into a feud with LA Knight going into the Royal Rumble 2023 event, which saw Bray Wyatt defeat LA Knight in a match that was called the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Along the way, Bray Wyatt would tease that he would be targeting the winner of the Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley match, which that match had saw Bobby Lashley defeat Brock Lesnar via a disqualification. This would begin a feud between Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley with a lot of mind games, including what seemed to be a new segment of the Firefly Funhouse. However, Bray Wyatt was quietly removed from TV, and the angle was ultimately scrapped due to Bray Wyatt getting sick in real life. And unfortunately, we would never see the light of day of how this angle was going to be played out, as Bray Wyatt would unfortunately pass away on August 24th, 2023. A documentary about Bray Wyatt was released just in time for WrestleMania 40, which had teased the return of this angle, with Uncle Howdy making his return in June of 2024 with a group known as the Wyatt Sick6. But what could have been the possibility of how this angle would have turned out had Bray Wyatt not only overcame his sickness, but of course still being alive today? So today's episode, we're going to be talking about what if Bray Wyatt was still alive today. Now, I originally wanted this episode to be out around the time that it was 1 year since Bray Wyatt's passing. However, this topic has become the most difficult that I have ever done, and I needed more time to make this episode. I'm going to be going through each WWE Premium Live event after the unfortunate passing of Bray Wyatt and try to fantasy book what I would think would happen involving Bray Wyatt if he was still alive and been able to make it back to WWE TV. And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. So the first Premium Live event after Bray Wyatt's passing was Payback in 2023, in which I think for this event would simply just be the return of Bray Wyatt alongside Uncle Howdy in the same capacity that Bray Wyatt had made his return at Extreme Rules the year prior. And the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase had actually discussed on his podcast how he had talked to Bray Wyatt's dad Mike Rotunda, aka IRS, about how he mentioned that Bray was very close to being cleared and would be back sometime in September. So it makes me believe that Bray Wyatt could have had an appearance at the Payback event in the same way as he did at Extreme Rules, but with Uncle Howdy, just to let everyone know that he is back. The next Premium Live event would be Fastlane 2023, in which I think this is where a match would happen, where it's Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy against Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits in a 2-on-3 handicap match. Now, in the summer of 2023, we had began noticing the alliance of Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, and later becoming a heel faction in the WWE. And in the real timeline, this led to a feud with the LWO and having a 6-man tag team match at the Fastlane event. And I still think that the reason that the Pride had became a heel stable, even though that fans really loved this faction, was the fact that I think WWE were going to pick up where Bray Wyatt was seen last, and that is feuding with Bobby Lashley, as it was originally intended for Bray Wyatt to face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania 39. And it possibly makes me think that it could have been the Pride versus the Wyatt Sick6, but part of me thinks that they wouldn't have executed the debut of the Wyatt Sick6 just yet. Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy do defeat Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits and ultimately finish off the feud that likely was going to end at WrestleMania 39. Crown Jewel 2023, Bray Wyatt goes up against Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Now, of course, we all know that Roman Reigns had won the Universal Championship at Payback in 2023 2020 in a triple threat match against Braun Strowman and the Fiend Bray Wyatt. However, Bray Wyatt was not pinned to lose the title at that time and technically deservingly owed a rematch. But another reason for this match to happen is to take to effect what is going on with the Wyatt Six currently in WWE, which it seems like as of late their motives would be to feud with people who had treated their close friends and or family badly, which we had seen that the last few years with Roman Reigns, the way that he would end up treating his cousins the Usos and especially Sami Zayn in the Bloodline, ultimately leading to the Bloodline Civil War match at Money in the Bank with the Usos going up against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. And so I do think that LA Knight would not take that spot at Crown Jewel, especially because I still believe that LA Knight should not have been inserted into the World Championship scene before chasing after that United States Championship. And of course, the Bray Wyatt going into this match is not the Fiend Bray Wyatt, because we shouldn't have the Fiend going after championships. This is the Bray Wyatt we initially have been seeing since his return. And so of course, in this match, you gotta have the typical Roman Reigns ending with the Bloodline interfering and leading to Solo Sikoa costing Bray Wyatt the match with the infamous Samoan Spike. Survivor Series 2023, Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy would team up against Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in a tag team match. In the real timeline, the Bloodline had no involvement as terms to the Survivor Series 2023 event. And once again, like I mentioned with the current Wyatt Six motives, I think that targeting Jimmy Uso would be perfect, considering of Jimmy Uso's betrayal to Jay during the SummerSlam match that Jay had with Roman Reigns. And so I think when it comes to this match that of course once again Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy would pick up the win by pinning Jimmy Uso, since we are really protecting Solo Sikoa after picking up a huge win against John Cena at Crown Jewel in the real timeline. This would be the last that we actually see of Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy in person throughout the rest of 2023, so that they aren't used much, because at this point Bray Wyatt is a special attraction and you cannot have Bray Wyatt always be on SmackDown every single week. So now this is going to be a break until probably the road to WrestleMania, where then we would see Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy again. Which of course leads to the Royal Rumble 2024, which like I mentioned, you don't see Bray Wyatt or Uncle Howdy, but I would imagine that a lot of different teasers would be made as they are gone. Like example, they could air new episodes of Firefly Funhouse, or they can tease us with those QR codes like Bray Wyatt's initial return in 2022 to tease Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy coming back in 2024. But now we go to Elimination Chamber 2024, where we would have a match with Bray Wyatt against Karrion Kross. Now during this time, just like the real timeline, the Final Testament would begin a feud with the Pride. Now although in the real timeline, the Pride and the Final Testament had a feud going into WrestleMania, this would be cut short as we would see the return of Bray Wyatt at this point to begin his own feud with Karrion Kross right before Elimination Chamber. And in a little bit, I will go into my explanation of why these two would be feuding. But as terms to the actual match between Karrion Kross and Bray Wyatt at Elimination Chamber, I would have Karrion Kross actually pick up the win, and I think around this time also is when we finally see the debut of the Wyatt Six faction. Now for WrestleMania 40, I think that Bray Wyatt would face Karrion Kross again, but this time Bray Wyatt brings back the Fiend gimmick in order to face him. Now Karrion Kross had mentioned during an interview with Chris Van Vliet that he was originally supposed to work with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 39, and plans had probably fell through due to Vince McMahon still being in charge and constantly changing his mind. And it was shown on the Bray Wyatt documentary that he was planning on bringing back the Fiend gimmick at some point, so in my timeline, why not return the gimmick at the same place where we last seen it, which was WrestleMania 37, when the Fiend had lost to Randy Orton. Now how we lead up to this, I don't exactly know, because we don't know what Bray Wyatt exactly would be thinking, but I could see something maybe involving Alexa Bliss in a non-wrestling role, since of course he just had a baby at this point, since it was Alexa Bliss's dark gimmick that had sent the Fiend to whatever realm to where we'd never seen him again. So at some point we would see teases of the return of the Fiend, which we finally see it at WrestleMania. I could imagine the Wyatt Six and the Final Testament having a brawl at some point, and of course, the Fiend Bray Wyatt picks up the victory against Karrion Kross in this match. Now we go to Backlash France 2024, in which we have basically the rubber match between the two, as we would actually have the Wyatt 6 faction against the Final Testament in a 6-man tag team match, as I would imagine it would be Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy, and of course Eric Rowan against Karrion Kross, Akam, and Razor. Imagine how this match would be, especially with how amazing the Lyon, France crowd was for this particular premium live event, which, in case you were wondering, of course the Wyatt 6 would pick up the victory against the Final Testament and officially end the feud. And now once again, after Backlash France, the Wyatt 6 would disappear from WWE TV and would only make sporadic appearances when needed. And it's very difficult to book exactly when they would return, besides the fact that I think if Bray Wyatt would officially be back as the Fiend, that gimmick would only be used on any of the big 4 premium live events like SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and especially WrestleMania again. But I do see a case where perhaps we actually don't see the Wyatt 6 at all until either SummerSlam or Bash in Berlin, where they probably would make their next premium live event appearance. But this is where I would let you guys sound off in the comments on what would happen after the match at Backlash France. Do they compete at King and Queen of the Ring, or do we wait until SummerSlam until they make a next appearance? Because with a gimmick and faction like this, you can't use it every week because you need to keep their aura special.